Welcome everybody to today's session. I'm Garen Griffiths and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Today's session is going to be about video game addiction, and particularly to you parents of teens that are concerned and have the question, does my kid have a video game addiction? It's a rampant challenge and concern to a lot of parents out there. A recent study shows that 97% of kids play video games. Now again, this doesn't mean that 97% have an addiction. Actually, if we look at the research, addiction to video games is very small in comparison to the amount of kids that play video games. Just like any addiction. Let's take alcoholism. A lot of people drink alcohol, but very few people can be considered alcoholics. And the same applies to video addiction. Just because your kid spends even a lot of time playing video games, it doesn't mean that they're addicted. So then the question is, how do I know if my child, teenager, is addicted to the video games they're playing? That's a big question. And to really give you a good idea to what the answer is to that, I would have you watch my videos on understanding addiction and what is addiction in my addiction playlist. But for purposes of this video, well, the question is hard to answer because there's a lot of factors that go into play to know whether somebody has an addiction to a video game. And my belief is, like any addiction, this addiction is just a symptom to a bigger problem. And so really, if a kid is addicted to video games, I would say there's a lot bigger concerns that we need to be worried about than them actually playing the video game. It's what's underlying it. It's what's driving them to compulsively play video games or to play them an inordinate amount of time. A resource that I'm going to use predominantly for this video comes from a TEDx talk named Escaping Video Game Addiction. And this is a guy that explains his 10-year video game addiction, kind of why he feels he was addicted and some ways to get out of it. And I really like the content and the explanation that he gave. It seems to fit what I find in the office and working with teens that struggle with perhaps video game addiction or just playing at an unhealthy level. So he explains 4 reasons why people play video games, and especially teens. So I want to go over these 4 reasons because I think understanding why someone potentially has an addiction or even why they're doing what they're doing helps us really understand how to help them not to do it. And I think as parents, and I'm in this category as well, I have teenagers and I work with a lot with teens. Playing video games has never really been my thing. And it may not be your thing. And as a parent, you may be really just baffled and can't understand why your kid is so interested and so able to spend so many hours in playing a video game. And so to understanding that, I think will give you a great edge and benefit in helping your kid not do it as much or overcome this addiction. So let's look at these 4 reasons why kids play video games. The first one is a temporary escape. And I can say that this is true for anybody with any addiction. Addiction predominantly is about escaping the stresses of the world. And teens today, I believe, are under more stress than teens ever have in any other generation. Definitely more stress than when I was a teenager. And again, I can almost say more stress than when you were a teenager. To understand what teens are stressing about, I would encourage you to go to my teen playlist and watch some of the videos that I address stress to teens. And that'll give you a good idea of what they're experiencing stress over. And again, it's a lot. And video games becomes that relief, that escape from the stress that they're facing. One big stress that we can talk about for teens is the need to fit in, the need to be social, the need to belong to a group. And the video games of today provide that. Because I imagine when you complain about your kids playing video games and not going out and being social with their friends, they're going to tell you, well, I am being social. I am talking to my friends in the video game, because they play with each other online. And it is a form of their being social. That might be hard for some of us adults to comprehend, because for us, being social was going out, riding our bikes, playing ball with, hanging out with, going to the mall with, whatever. But today, teens are being social and playing video games at the same time. And so that's their justification in playing for a lot of time. So video games do provide a sense of sociality to our teens today. So there's the first two. They are a way to escape, and they are a way to be social. The third reason kids play video games is he explains that they're a challenge. They challenge them. They are purpose-driven. They are goal-driven. They have something that they want to accomplish. They want to beat a level. They want to beat a mission. It's something for them to accomplish and to do. And that's a big human need that we all have. We all want to accomplish something. We all want to achieve something. And as silly as it may sound, a lot of the games that kids play provide them with that basic need to accomplish something, to achieve. And that's huge. And so that keeps them engaged for long periods of time. And this leads us to the fourth reason why kids play video game. And that is they provide a constant measurable growth. Again, this goal, this thing to accomplish in the game is constant. And so it's this constant positive feedback loop that they get. It's constant reinforcement, and so they just want to keep doing it or go to the next game that's going to provide that sense of achievement. And so that's huge. There's not a lot of things in life that provide that amount of accomplishment and feedback so quickly. And so they can spend 6 hours trying to beat a game, and when they do, they get a sense of euphoria, they get a sense of accomplishment. And so that's hard to combat in trying to find alternative forms of entertainment. Now, it's possible, it just makes it difficult. I think another way in which they get feedback is from their peers online. They may not be popular at school, but if they're really good at a video game and they're playing with other people and they get constant praise for how good they are for what they're doing, well, that's huge. That's going to give them, again, a sense of self-esteem and a sense of praise that we all need too. And so again, we look at video games, and sometimes as parents, we look at them as all bad. They do provide the teen with a lot of basic human needs and accomplishment. So we want to keep that in mind when we're trying to limit them. So what do we do as parents, and how do we answer the next big question that I get a lot is, well, what's a reasonable amount of time that I should let my kid play video games? Well, that's a hard question to answer too, because there's no concrete answer for that. A lot of experts will say it depends. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on how much screen time they're engaged in other mediums like social media, like Netflix, like YouTube. And so there's just a lot of factors that apply. For me as a counselor, it also depends on how they're doing in other areas of their life. How are they doing in school? Are their grades up? How are they doing in their social life? Are they spending time with other kids or with their family? What's their mood like? Are they generally happy, or they seem depressed? And so there's a lot of factors in what comes in determining how much a kid should be allowed to play video games. As parents, what we can do is set boundaries and some reasonable limits. I think a reasonable limit is not to allow a kid to have a game system in their room. But you as a parent may think that's totally acceptable. But I think that can pose a lot of problems, because when we all go to bed and then they stay up playing video games all night, that can be a problem. It can be a problem because, in large part, they may not be getting the sleep they need. And that's another big factor. Are they staying up all night and not getting the sleep they need to do well in school, to be healthy, and all these other factors. So it's a complex challenge. It's a complex topic with a lot of answers. I'm not saying this video is going to answer all your questions in understanding of video game addiction, but understanding why they're doing it is important. So when finding other activities instead of video games or other screen time problems that we may be having, is finding activities that's going to give them, again, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of positive feedback, a way to escape the stresses of their life. And when we provide these things, we're going to have a better opportunity for them to have different activities. But I think it's also important to give them some time, to allow them some time playing video games if it's something they're interested in. But we want to give them opportunities to learn new things as well. That may be a sport, that may be something musical or something artistic or some other hobby or interest that they can find some of these same needs being met in. Finally, another big thing I want to always stress to parents is we want to model healthy behavior, healthy hobbies and interests. We want to be aware, how much time are we spending on our devices? Are we on our phones constantly? Are we on social media constantly? Are we looking at news constantly? If our kids are watching us on our phones or our devices a ton, and we're getting on them for playing video games too much, we're going to be very hypocritical in their eyes. So watch ourselves as well. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. I hope it understands video game addiction a little bit and why they do it. Hope it gives you some ideas of where to go from here. And again, I know this is not all encompassing, but I hope it gives you some information on the topic.